I think one of my all-time hot takes is that Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is my favorite movie of the franchise, and I'm going to try to explain as best as I can. First of all, I will admit Rob Zombie defenders do us a terrible disservice when all they can say is that Michael was big and scary. But that is something that I personally like, and I think it's worth noting that Rob Zombie's creative decision to make Michael so big and intimidating came from a place of love. You know, there's an interview where he explains this choice, and he basically said, after years of seeing Michael set on fire, blasted away by a group of rednecks, and getting his ass whooped by Busta Rhymes, he wanted to make Michael scary again. He wanted to put some respect back on his name. Of course, you can never praise the performances by Danielle Harris and Brad Dourif enough. They were perfect in this movie. And I personally loved Scout Taylor Compton's performance as Laurie Strode. I see a lot of comments from people talking about how she was way too insufferable and she was way too much of a bitch in this movie. And I think it was honestly a great, dark, and more realistic portrayal of trauma in this situation. You know, we get so many horror sequels with the final girl as this strong and brave, taking back control of her life, and that's great. You know, I love Sidney Prescott, I love Laurie in the 2018 Halloween, but I just think that probably doesn't happen every time in real life. That probably doesn't happen most times in real life. So I like this as more of a realistic portrayal of a character going through a situation like this. I also love Rob Zombie's true crime influence. You see this all over his movies, really. I mean, he's talked about how his character of Dr. Loomis was influenced by Vincent Bugliosi, you know, the guy who basically made his name as the prosecuting attorney in the Charles Manson case, and he goes on to write a book and essentially becomes a rock star of the true crime world. To me, that's also a much more realistic portrayal of somebody put in that situation. I also love the way that Michael traverses through the country roads. Maybe I'm getting a little personal here. I grew up in a small town that was surrounded by back roads, and if you wanted to travel around this town while remaining undetected, you would take the back roads. So that makes sense to me, and I like seeing it. And my last note, I will say, I truly believe that Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is the most unique Halloween movie while remaining a Halloween movie. And what I mean by that is, to me, there's 3 movies that stand out as the most unique of the franchise. Those being Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and Halloween Ends. But to me, a true Halloween movie is a movie that's about either Michael Myers or Laurie Strode, or both. With Season of the Witch, it's obviously neither of those. Halloween Ends is honestly a Corey and Allison movie with Michael and Laurie just kind of hanging out in the background and popping up on screen when it's time to remind us that it is a Halloween movie. But then Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is a full-blown Michael and Laurie movie, with the focal point being on Laurie.